Hello YouTube, Shadow Hero 90 here. This is a new series I'm going to be doing called Sexism in Movies and TV. You see, the reason I do this is not because there's just sexism in the shows that I watch, but a lot of fictional characters kids see as role models and want to grow up to be like them. And although I don't really have a list of actual jerks, well, every boy needs a good role model. And this is really more of a list of fictional jerks that, without a good role model, well, a lot of young boys could grow up to be just like. And since we don't want any of, well, not just American youth, but the children of any country or gender to grow up to be like, well, real live versions of the jerks on that list, that's why I'm doing this series and essentially pointing out double standards, hypocrisy, and how many TV shows and movies have degenerated into piles of misandric garbage. Note, I do like certain shows. I like most of the shows on this list, and it's not so much as a criticism. Well, it kind of is, but there are parts where these shows need to be improved. Okay, I've already covered The Simpsons and Family Guy, so now I'm covering American Dad. The season 1 finale, the two-parter, Stan of Arabia. Stan is basically in charge of hosting a party for his boss, Deputy Director Bullock, and he wants to put Francine in charge of it, which I admit is a dick move. But we actually see kind of, well, the sexism that implies, as in this case. Yeah. To go to the movie, or to attend this movie, or documentary, Haley stole her father's credit card, if that wasn't bad enough. Being a spoiled brat, a liberal, a feminist. Don't worry, she's gonna get her comeuppance later in this episode. All Steve wants is a ride, and pretty much Haley makes him compliment her and insult himself before she drives him anywhere. She also, in her little song and dance, destroys property, as you can see from this. Strips down to her lingerie and commits what pretty much can be equated to sexual assault. Yes, it is possible for a woman to sexually assault a man. Okay, so this spoiled brat, who I previously established stole her father's credit card, is pissed off that what she thought was a liberal documentary turned out to be a complete porno, and the fact that her boyfriend is eating a corn dog. One, she's a thief. Two, she's basically upset that her boyfriend Jeff here is eating a corn dog, which is basically freedom of choice. And three, this is kind of a setup I'm pretty sure Haley Smith hates America. So, what happens to her in this episode and the next, she completely has coming. Yep, this little skank who stole her father's credit card definitely hates America, as you can see here. And then she basically ruins Steve's joy by getting him kicked out of the theater. Okay, so Stan completely botches Bullock's party, and in a fit of anger, Bullock makes Stan relocate to Saudi Arabia. Note, this came out in 2005, 2006, so there's no racial intent here. Later, Stan basically learns that, pretty much he's in charge now because of several things in Islam. So, let's just say Francine and Haley do not adjust to this well, as you can see here. Okay, so basically Stan got another wife, because Francine was being such a bitch, because she wanted a new culture, she's a spoiled brat, and she's pretty much getting what she wanted. Kind of like she wished for it, and now she's experiencing the ironic downside. Not to mention the fact that she got into a fight with Mrs. Smith number 2, strips down to her lingerie, and commits what pretty much can be equated to sexual assault. Yes, it is possible for a woman to sexually assault a man. Okay, so Stan. Well, this episode ends with Stan being called by Deputy Director Bullock, telling him he's got his job back. But when Stan is forced to choose between basically, well, being bossed around like a monkey by his stupid wife, who's a spoiled little brat, and the life he now has, he basically decides he's not coming back and quits his job. And as we can see, Haley is getting her own dose of karma in the sense that, well, in the beginning she was bossing Steve around like a monkey and making him insult himself to get rides. Now she needs him to escort her anywhere she wants to go, as you're seeing here. Being the liberal that she is, Haley literally had to go outside even though it was established she couldn't, and ends up getting chased down by police. Okay, part 2. In all fairness, Haley took everything America provides for granted, and now she's kind of getting what she deserves. And then she's saved by this guy who tricks her into thinking he's a terrorist, but really he works at a fast food place, so she beats him into a coma. And ends up getting arrested anyways. And the only reason she liked him and had sex with him because he actually went on a rant about how much he hates America. Okay, at this point, Director Bullock has told Francine that he offered Stan his old job back, but Stan decided to quit. And this basically drives Francine completely insane, to the point where she starts singing, dancing, and overall criticizing Saudi Arabia. I mean, just look at the look on her face. That is the look of an insane woman. Oh, and it goes beyond what basically the song and dance where she criticizes the country. Stan literally tried to stop her, but he failed. She was completely out of control, and she ends up in prison for it. She kinda had this one coming. Pretty sure anyone familiar with American Dad knows how this episode ends with, the whole family ends up getting arrested and they all go home. Okay, now you're probably wondering why it's sexist. Well, not really in the sense, but this ending is sexist, where when they get home, they all sing a song. Stan mentions how the wife pretty much controls the household in America, and basically the reason it's sexist is because Francine and Haley do not actually realize that they've taken everything they now got back for granted. In season 2 and in every other season, they still act spoiled, they still act immature, and they basically they don't learn a lesson. This would have been a perfect time for Seth MacFarlane to write what would equate to a men's rights episode, but no. Both Francine and Haley Sorry for the technical difficulties. But both Francine and Haley get through this entire episode without learning a lesson. I mean, Stan has learned he's learned at least 5 to maybe 8 lessons in season 1. But would it kill Seth MacFarlane to have Francine or Haley learn from their mistakes? No, and in future episodes they're gonna pull stunts like this. And yeah, it is gonna be offensive, and they will not learn, well, basically they won't learn from their mistakes.